Today on Forbes, Mamdani doesn't think we should have billionaires. Here's why that will never happen. Fresh off his shellacking of former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo in the Democratic primary for mayor, New York State Assembly member Zohran Mamdani has been the hottest guest on the press circuit. When asked on NBC if he thought billionaires have the right to exist, he chuckled and said, quote, "I don't think that we should have billionaires because, frankly, it is so much money in a moment of such inequality." The United States is a fiercely capitalist society, based on the meritocratic idea that everyone has the opportunity to build their own futures and fortunes. Billionaires typically make their money by starting companies that are engines of innovation and which employ millions of their fellow citizens. Think Amazon, Nike, Walmart, Microsoft, Google. The only way to truly attack fortunes of this size, because most billionaires have little in the way of ordinary income, is by enacting a hyper-aggressive wealth and asset tax. There's also a practical roadblock. The US is currently led by a billionaire president who has surrounded himself with a posse of billionaires, all of whom are likely to fight off wealth tax proposals. Not to mention that Congress just passed a megabill that protects billionaires' wealth more than ever before. But, just for kicks, say that America really decided it wanted to get rid of its billionaires. How could that be accomplished? The only possible answer is massive confiscatory taxes. It has been tried before. At the onset of World War II, President Franklin Roosevelt proposed capping Americans' post-tax income at $25,000, or $50,000 for couples, about $1 million today. Congress set the top marginal rate at 94% in 1944 and 1945, and required the paycheck withholding system still in use today. Today, taxes on wealth, as opposed to income, form the core of anti-billionaire crusaders' plans to eliminate the largest fortunes. When running for president in 2020, Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders proposed a graduated tax on wealth over $32 million that capped out at a rate of 8% on anything over $10 billion, claiming that it would, quote, cut the wealth of billionaires in half over 15 years. Such a tax would cost the world's richest person, Elon Musk, over $30 billion in the first year, and, even assuming zero growth in his fortune, would take nearly 20 years to just get his wealth below $100 billion. He would likely be forced to annually sell an enormous number of Tesla shares to cover the annual payments. Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren's 2020 plan would have taxed wealth over $50 million at 2% and wealth over $1 billion at 6%. She, alongside Washington Representative Pramila Jayapal and Pennsylvania Representative Brendan Boyle, have reintroduced her so-called ultra-millionaires tax, a similar policy that tops out at 3%, in Congress. Jayapal, who chairs the House Progressive Caucus, tells Forbes that she largely agrees with Mamdani's idea. She says, quote, "I suppose if there was a scenario in which you could have a couple of billionaires, but everyone else was doing extremely well, that might be one thing. But it seems that the way our tax policies focus, billionaires become billionaires at the expense of everyone else." Of course, you need to put the IRS on steroids to make this sort of wealth tax work, and police the wealthy from moving their money offshore. The US would also have to implement an exit tax and negotiate complex tax treaties with other countries. Chuck Collins, who studies inequality at the left-wing Institute for Policy Studies and co-edits a website called inequality.org, says, quote, "There would always be the Cook Islands and a few places like that that would try to be outside that system. But the reality is, most of those countries want to participate in a global economy. And so you can say, well, yeah, you need to sign on to a global tax regime." Mamdani, it seems, isn't looking to tax all the billionaires in New York to oblivion. His plans for revenue include increasing New York's top corporate tax rate from 7.25% to 11.5%, in line with New Jersey, and adding a 2% surcharge to personal income over $1 million. That's hardly enough to vaporize anyone's wealth. But to get even that, he'll need New York Governor Kathy Hochul's buy-in, already a long shot. For full coverage, check out Kyle Kahn Mullins and Lily Ogburn's piece on Forbes.com. This is Kieran Meadows from Forbes. Thanks for tuning in.